Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the June meeting of the Tecumseh Committee of Adjustment. Everybody on the committee is present. So I'll call the meeting to order. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Minutes of our last meeting were pre-circulated. Motion for the minutes. Tom and Lori, any addition, deletion, correction? All in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you. And that brings us to our first application. You just made it, Josette.
Application for consent B0921, Jamesville Group, Inc. and James Sylvester Developments Limited, 1847 Manning Road. The purpose of the application is to create an easement outlined in red on the attached sketch over a portion of 1847 Manning Road, shaded in yellow on the attached sketch, in favor of 1855 Manning Road property shaded in green on the attached sketch for the purpose of providing ingress and egress. The proposed easement is approximately 11.89 meters, 39 feet wide by 86.8 meters, 284.88 feet, more or less in depth, and extends westerly from the westerly limit of the Manning Road, County Road 19 right-of-way. The property is designated business park in the town of Tecumseh official plan and zoned industrial M1 in the South zoning bylaw. No comments from engineering, no comments from building, no comments from fire services, no comments from Essex Power Lines. The Ministry of Transportation indicated the property is located outside of the MTO permit control area. As such, MTO permits are not required. Essex Region Conservation Authority, with a review of background information and aerial photograph, ERC has no objection to the application for consent.
Okay, thank you very much, Donna. Josette, at this point in the proceedings, I usually ask the applicant if they have anything they'd like to tell us that we haven't already seen in the documents or in the reading.
Thanks. I really have nothing to add. I think Donna has done a beautiful job putting everything together for us and was extremely helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, good. The only one, I had one question, which was, this is an application for a permanent easement?
That's correct. So this was something that they'd had in a temporary format, and just to formalize and make it permanent.
Yes, I figured that was it because that's why it comes to us. It's like it's almost like a severance.
Yes, please.
Okay, any questions from the committee? Tom?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So just to the applicant, just for clarification. So this entrance currently served, I think, 3 businesses. What was the old building center, the lock storage, and I forget what's to the north there, but is this a shared easement, or is this an easement that's being, I guess, provided to the, is this still a private property, private easement?
Yep. So this easement will allow, make sure that there's access for 1855 Manning at this driveway. I'm not sure what third business you were anticipating, but 1847 is the storage buildings, and then 1855 is that green space, and some of those buildings there, their main entrance is from this driveway access. So it's to make permanent that 1855 has shared ingress and egress at that driveway.
Okay, I guess I didn't know if there was access to the business to the north there, but I guess
Actually,
there's
on the
not.
air photo, Tom, you can see on the north side of that lot, there appears to be a bridge and a laneway.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No other questions? Motion? Lori?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the application B-09/21, I do move to approve the application with the recommended conditions as set forward in the planning report.
Okay, seconder? Tony? Any comment on the motion? All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you very much. Easy, Josette. Was that your first one?
It was very smooth. I appreciate everyone's help. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. You as well.
The next application is 5074 North Talbot.
Application for consent B1021 Linda Deno, 5074 North Talbot Road. The purpose of the application is to request consent to sever a vacant residential lot having a frontage of 67.13 meters, 220.2 feet, an irregular depth and an approximate lot area of 5,701 square meters, 1.4 acres, outlined in red on the attached sketch. The proposed retaining lot containing an existing dwelling has a frontage of 64.84 meters, 212.7 feet, an irregular depth, an approximate lot area of 5,567 square meters, 1.37 acres, outlined in yellow on the attached sketch. The lands are designated residential in the Town of Tecumseh official plan and zoned agricultural in the Sandwich South zoning bylaw. As a condition of approval, a zoning bylaw amendment rezoning the lands into site-specific hamlet residential zone will be required. Correspondence, engineering. The owner enter into and provide the Town of Tecumseh a written agreement for the reapportionment of the drainage assessment for the subject lands in accordance with section 65(2) of the Ontario Drainage Act as amended, and that the associated costs of same be borne solely by the applicant. A drainage report is currently being prepared under section 78 of the Drainage Act for the repair and improvement to the Shuttleworth drain. Depending on timing, it may be possible to have the reapportionment of the drainage assessment assessed through this report. Item number 2, that the parcel to be retained and the parcel to be severed are to be serviced with separate water supplies, storm and sanitary sewer systems to the satisfaction of the Town of Tecumseh Public Works, Water Division, and Building Department prior to the severance being finalized. Item 3, that the owner be advised that prior to the severance being finalized, a new access culvert and driveway are required across the open municipal drain, Shuttleworth Drain, to the parcel to be severed in accordance with section 78 of the Ontario Drainage Act as amended, and that the owner is required to submit a request for improvement form to the town for the required new access culvert, and that all costs related to the new access culvert and driveway are the responsibility of the applicant. As noted above, a drainage report is currently being prepared under section 78 of the Drainage Act for the repair and improvement of the Shuttleworth drain. Depending on timing, it may be possible to have the new access culvert included in this report. No comments from building, no comments from fire, no comments from Essex Power Line. The property is located outside the MTO permit control area. As such, the MTO permits are not required, was the response from the Ministry of Transportation. Essex Region Conservation Authority indicate that the above noted lands are subject to our development, interface, and wetlands and alterations to shorelines and watercourses regulations under the Conservation Authorities Act. The parcel falls within the regulated area of the Washbrook Drain and Shuttleworth Drain. The property owner will be required to obtain a permit or clearance from Essex Region Conservation Authority prior to any construction or alteration on the site or other activities affected by section 28 of the Conservation Authorities Act. In addition, with the review of background information and aerial photograph, ERCA has no objection to the application for consent, and Bell Canada has no concerns with the application.
Okay, Linda, as I did in the first application, you have an opportunity now to tell the committee anything that we may need to know that isn't already in the documents.
I think Donna covered it all. It's pretty straightforward severance. We just want to sever it, my husband and I, or if our kids want it in the future, or if we decide to sell our home and build a small retirement home on that property.
Okay, thank you. Committee have any questions? Well, you people are quiet tonight. Lori,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that this particular application is a great opportunity for severance in that the official plan designation is a hamlet residential designation. So in that regard, it's good to see that as a part of a severance. As we all know, and maybe the applicant may not be aware, any severances on agricultural land, if designated under the official plan, are very difficult to obtain. So it's good to see that the land is designated for future growth and the creation of lots. It is also good to see that the land would, under the recommendation of the planning team and administration, the land would require a rezoning. So that's a nice suggestion and one that I would definitely support. The question I would have is the rezoning as a condition of approval, would that proceed through the regular application process in that it would need to have circulation to surrounding landowners and be submitted under kind of the regular rezoning type of application? And that question is to Mr. Jeffrey.
okay,
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, that condition of a rezoning would have to follow the requirements of the Planning Act, and there would be a public meeting. And notice would be given to all landowners within 120 meters or roughly 400 feet of the subject property.
And just to confirm, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Jeffrey, just to confirm, is that rezoning for both the parcels?
Yes, it is.
Okay, no further questions.
all right,
Thank you.
anybody else? Tony cleared his throat, a little bar under and lit up.
No, actually, Lori's basically asking the perfect questions, so I'm just absorbing what Lori and Chad had to say.
I have a question for Chad. The drainage report currently being prepared. What's the timing like on it? When will it be heard?
Mr. Chair, I don't have the precise time that it will be heard, but the drainage engineer has indicated that they might be able to consider that bridge under that process. So I think the sooner that application or that condition is addressed, the better, so that there is in fact an opportunity to have it included in that drainage report. So if there's a positive decision tonight, then the applicant should contact the drainage engineer immediately.
Yeah, there's a bridge and reapportionment.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Tony,
Actually, through you, Mr. Chair, actually my question is actually for Chad, just for personal information and that. So what is the procedure here? Are we doing the drainage report before the council open house or before it goes to council for rezoning?
Through Mr. Chair, I suspect that those could be done simultaneously because the drainage report, I don't believe would have any bearing on the rezoning. The rezoning process does take approximately 3 to 4 months for something like this. So there would be time to contact the drainage engineer and ensure that access bridge is addressed through the drainage process. So I don't think that that proceeding with the rezoning application precludes the bridge from being incorporated into the drainage process.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, Laurie, you had your hand up?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just one last question to administration, to Mr. Jeffrey. Is there, which I didn't see that there is a requirement for any minimum lot area in an RH zone?
And through you, Mr. Chair, the minimum lot area in the RH zone is 20,000 square feet.
And this is larger,
In
correct?
this- Yes. yeah,
Okay.
both parcels.
Thank you.
Okay. No more questions? Motion? There's no motion. Tom? You're muted. Tom, you're muted.
There we go.
Thank you.
Yeah, that application B-10-21, located at 5074 North Talbot, be approved as it meets the 4 tests. And I think that, as Lori and others have stated, it's good, good planning.
Okay. Seconder, Daniel? Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, Lori?
I missed it. Did you say with the conditions as,
I'm sorry, yes, with the conditions that
Recommended.
recommendations, yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed, carried, thank you. Okay, where are we here? Mr. Goulet, you're finally on.
How you doing?
Good. Charlene Lane, Donna?
Application for minor variance A2921, Chad Goulet, 12331 Charlene Lane. The purpose of the application is to request relief from subsection 5.27.1C of zoning bylaw 85-18, which establishes that an accessory structure shed shall not be closer than 1.22 meters, 4 feet, to any side or rear lot line if greater than 10 square meters in area, 107.6 square feet, or 2.5 meters, 8.2 feet in height. The application is proposing to construct a 13.4 square meter, 144 square foot addition to the existing accessory structure shed having a side yard width of 0.84 meters, 2.75 feet from the westerly lot line and 1.0 meters, 3.3 feet from the southerly lot line. The proposed accessory structure will have a total area of 24.5 square meters, 264 square feet. The property is designated residential in the Tecumseh official plan and zoned residential R1 in the Sandwich South zoning bylaw. As part of the building permit process, the owner will be required to provide details on how runoff from the proposed building will be controlled to prevent it from flowing onto neighboring properties to the satisfaction of the chief building official. No correspondence from building, no comments from fire, no comments from Essex Power Line. The Ministry of Transportation has no comments as the MTO permits are not required. And IRCA has no objection to the application.
Okay. Mr. Goulet, do you have anything you'd like to add, as I asked the other applicants?
No, when I applied for the permit to expand the shed that I have, the only thing I asked was if I could carry it straight along my, where the current wall is right now, just keep it in line instead of having to jog out from the fence. That was my only concern at that time.
Okay. Committee have any questions? Daniel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, a question for administration. The current shed is, we're calling it a shed, is that an actual structure or is it a mobile or makeshift shed? And if so, did it have a permit to be placed where it was or where it currently is prior to this application?
Mr. Chair, it's considered a structure in the eyes of the zoning bylaw. As for whether a permit was issued, I am not aware of that. There were no comments from the building department that indicated that it was built with or without one. But I understand that the current landowner purchased the property with the shed already constructed in that location.
Okay. Does that help, Daniel? You done? Okay, anybody else? Lori?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A question to, I guess it would be administration. Today we received correspondence, Miss Donna, Miss Pierce, and I just was wondering, the property directly adjacent to this, I believe would be 12335. I don't know for sure, but could administration clarify? Yes, so where your cursor is, Chad or Donna, did the 12325, I was trying to decipher if 12325, which I believe is on 12331, 123. I think you guys know what I'm trying to get at. Is that resident directly adjacent who's going to be impacted by this minor variance? Did that individual submit their name under the petition or letter of support?
Actually, I can help with that. I've having gotten a list of neighbors who are supporting, I went to the town's aerial map and circled all the addresses that were put down. And 325 and 335, the houses on each side are both in there. 2011 on the back was another signatory. 33 even number right across the street was also a signatory, and 2017 and 2011 on the rear yards both signed support.
Yeah, 2013, he hasn't been home for a few days. I don't know where he's at. I've been over there a couple of times knocking on his door, trying to get a signature.
I think really the intent of the question was definitely to see if the resident next door had any opposition. So that's wonderful to see that their name is on that letter of support. Happy to hear that they don't have any concerns. So thank you for the clarification, and to you, Mr. Chair, thanks for doing that legwork. I think if there's an opening at the town, you might want to apply.
I don't think they want me. Anyway, any other questions? My screen got smaller, so.
Mr. Chair,
Tom,
just to the applicant, is the height going to be consistent with the existing building?
Yes, it is. The walls are going to be the same height, and it's just going to be a add-on to it.
So the roof line, I guess the peak projects east-west right now.
Yes. And
Um,
it
so is
will have a valley tied in on both sides. There'll be a peak tied into the existing shed. So it'll be a gable going into a gable.
Okay, so the water is going to drain south and north.
East and west. It'll come, the valley will come down that way.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
anybody else? Let me just look and see if there are conditions recommended here. None are recommended, okay. The issue of drainage will be dealt with when the building permit comes out. The building department will look after that part of it. So we don't need to worry about making any kind of condition for that. Okay, anybody else? Motion? Paul?
Application A29/21, I'd like to make a motion for it be approved based on, in my opinion, past 4 tests and the surrounding area. You can see the sheds in the surrounding area are maybe as big or just a slight smaller than this one. In my opinion, I'd like to make a motion to approve it.
So moved, supported by? Supported by Tom? All in favor? Opposed, carried. Good, thank you. Thanks, Chad.
Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
You too. So now Mr. Lavin is with us.
Oh,
And Donna will read the next one.
Application for minor variance, Thomas Lavin, 625 St. Pierre Street. The purpose of the application is to request relief from subsection 5.25.1 DI of zoning bylaw 1746, which establishes that accessory buildings in residential zones shall not exceed 10% of the total lot area or 90 square meters, 968.7 square feet in area, whichever is the lesser, and no individual accessory building or structure shall exceed 70 square meters, 753.4 square feet in area. The applicant is requesting relief to construct a 90.5 square meter, 973.7 square foot accessory building, which will include a covered patio area of 20.6 square meters, 222 square feet. The subject property is designated residential in the Town of Tecumseh official plan and zoned residential R2 in the Tecumseh zoning bylaw. Correspondence, comments from engineering. As part of the building permit process, the owner will be required to provide details on how runoff from the proposed building will be controlled to prevent it from flowing onto neighboring properties to the satisfaction of the chief building official. The issue of ingress and egress to the site during times of flooding should be reviewed with the Tecumseh Fire Department and the Essex Region Conservation Authority. The building department's comments, a satisfactory grading and drainage plan from a qualified person will be required before the issuance of a permit in accordance with the town's grading, filling, dumping, and topsoil removal bylaw. No comments from fire services. Essex Power provided the following. The residence at 625 St. Pierre Street is fed overhead from a pole located outside the northwest corner of the property. It is advised to ensure that the minimum vertical clearance of 1 meter be maintained between the new structure and the secondary feed to the residence. The MTO does not require any permits as the outside of the controlled area, and IRCA has no objection to the application.
Okay, Donna, there was one thing noted in the report from administration about resident at 606 Les Bronx, who was worried about the use of the alley. It's,
Okay, very good. I did miss that. Let me read that part out. So public comments were received, written comments were received from Jason Rayside at 606 Les Bronx Road. Expressed concern regarding the potential access to the adjacent alley, noting it consists of soil and grass that regularly is maintained by some residents and not the town of Tecumseh. He further noted that the alley is primarily used for utility vehicles to maintain hydro, bell, etc., so basically services, and that damage has occurred to the alley and a resident's property already this year. He explained that the alley is not navigable and will not sustain passenger vehicle traffic to the structure in the application and questioned whether it is the intent to improve the alley if access is granted to the structure in the application.
okay, thanks. Where's Mr. Lavin? There he is. Is there anything you'd like to add to this that we haven't heard about?
Well, just in regards to the alley access, I don't intend on using that access. There's no door entrance to the back of the structure, so there'll be no means of me needing to use that alley.
Okay. So the committee has heard that. Any questions from the committee besides that? Tom?
Just to the applicant, maybe you can just explain what the intended use of the structure is going to be for.
So it's pretty much just gonna be for storage, a garage. It's not gonna be so much parked as my vehicle in there, more of storage. I live in a small house and my basement's pretty full. So that's pretty much it. And then the patio area would just be a sitting area with a patio set and just enjoy the outside.
So it's not intended to be a place of business.
No,
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Laurie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could we see if it was submitted an elevation, and can we also be provided with the height of the proposed structure? Just
I think
for
it-
visual sake and in comparison to the fence height, for example, just to see kind of the visual impact, if any.
In your email, Laurie, from this afternoon, you should have got a copy of a notice from Donna with those two things included in it. Because I couldn't read the floor plan from the stuff we got just with the package. So I had her send out, and I think we sent to everybody, right, Donna?
Yes, it was sent to the entire committee.
Yeah, so it's in your email.
Yeah, and that was sent out today.
Yeah, I'll give you this afternoon, as a matter of fact. I'll give you time to find it if you can.
I think it was just brought, yep, Chad's got it up.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm just displaying that on the screen right now, I believe, and you can
Okay.
see from the side profile that the height of the structure, which is measured to midway point between the eaves and the top of the roof line is 3.76 meters or roughly 12 feet 4 inches, which is under the maximum for accessory structures.
Okay, and thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Last question to administration, just to confirm, although I didn't hear Ms. Ferris indicate as such, did the resident directly to the north of this property, or were there any letters of opposition specifically from any resident to the north?
There were no letters of opposition, just the one that the public comments at 606 Les Bronx Road.
Okay, thank you, Donna. And that's it.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? Have we exhausted the questions? Seeing none. Somebody want to make a motion? Maybe, or maybe not. Thomas?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would support the application. Not sure what the number is now.
It's not shown on the agenda.
No.
8/31/21.
Anyhow, yeah, I would support the
Oh, I'm
application.
sorry.
I think
the wrong
the owner has done a good job providing the drawings. I was out at the site today and provided that the water issues are taken care of through the building department. And the concerns that the building department may have with the structure are taken care of. I think that will fit nicely there and it meets the 4 tests.
It's A30/21, Tom.
8:30,
A30/21,
8:30:21. Thank you.
and attach the recommended conditions.
Yes.
Okay, Daniel's support, Daniel? Okay. Any other questions, comments on this? All in favor? Opposed, unanimous again. Thanks, Mr. Lyman.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
And now that I've got everything mixed up here. Last but not least. 14146 Riverside Drive, Sandy,
Hi.
welcome.
Thank you.
And
Can
Donna,
you-
you're muted.
Application for minor variance A31-21, Sandy Spencer, 14146 Riverside Drive. The purpose of the application is to request relief from subsection 6.2.1 of zoning bylaw 2065, which establishes that no accessory buildings or structures shall be permitted within the required rear yard in the residential R1 zone. The applicant is requesting relief to allow a 23.8 square meter, 256 square foot covered open-sided accessory structure gazebo to extend 4.3 meters, 14 feet into the required rear yard as outlined on the attached sketch. The subject property is designated residential in the Tecumseh official plan and zoned residential type 1 in the St. Clair Beach zoning bylaw. The correspondence are as follows. Engineering, the issue of ingress and egress to the site during times of flooding should be reviewed with the Tecumseh Fire Department and the Essex Region Conservation Authority. No comments from building, no comments from fire, no comments from Essex Power Line. No permits are required from the MTO as it's outside the controlled area, and ERCA provided the following comments. The above noted lands are subject to our development, interference with wetlands, and alteration to shorelines and watercourses regulation under the Conservation Authorities Act. The parcel falls within the regulated area of Lake St. Clair. The property owner will be required to obtain a permit and/or clearance from ERCA prior to any construction or site alteration to other activities affected by Section 28 of the Conservation Authorities Act. ERCA has no objection to the application for minor variance.
We do have one public comment on it. Read it into the record, please. It's in the administration report. From the Roddick's. You're muted.
Donna and Amber Rodzik, 14150 Riverside Drive. Support the request of a detached rear covered porch per the design submitted. Sorry about that.
No problem, no problem. I just, because it's recorded, I'd like to get it read into the record, that's all. Sandy, get a chance to help us out with this.
Sure. Yeah, I'd like to thank the committee and thank Donna. She was very helpful getting our application together. Currently, we have a stone patio right now that we step down to. Really, we just want to build a cedar deck with a portion of it of a open-sided covered portion to protect against the elements. I did have talks to both neighbors on the Rod 6, the side that's east of us. They have no opposition against anything, building anything. And then Mr. Poopelin, who lives on the west side of us, we received a text from, he's been in and out of his house. I haven't been able to talk to him in the last couple of days. I did have a long conversation before we put the application in, and he did not oppose it. He did send us a text this morning saying that he was had no opposition on it. And basically, we really would just like to utilize our backyard a little more. If you see on the drawings, we do have quite a large frontage of property, and we don't really use it at all. And so we really wanted to have a nice deck out there to sit out and entertain us, or hang out for ourselves, just because of this COVID thing going on and all, and just really enjoy the water more.
So the only question that I think the committee might have, one of the questions they might have, is you mentioned the deck.
Yes.
What's the height of the deck off the ground?
It's only going to be like a foot and a half, I think. The land slopes down towards the house, and so I think there's going to be 1.5 step once it gets out towards the lawn.
But it's at the entrance level at the back of the house?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have questions? Thomas?
I was at the site today, that there is an existing structure, it looks like.
Right. It's like a metal gazebo type thing. And so it's basically going to be where that is, except off the ground a little bit higher.
Okay, and as the chair confirmed, it is the same elevation as the floor of the house, so you'll walk straight out,
There'll be a slight step down.
one step down. And I did see that there is fairly thick landscaping, cedar hedges along the eastern edge of the property, so I didn't really see anything that would cause issue with the neighbors, and it's good to see that the neighbors are, you've got support from the neighbors, so I think that's good. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? One of the things that we usually talk about is to make sure that the applicant knows that it's open-sided. No drapes, no anything that would block the sight lines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Actually, that's one of the conditions that's recommended.
Okay.
Daniel, sorry.
Through you, Mr. Chair, does administration have a drawing of the proposed addition of this covered veranda or porch, or you would call
Yes, if you bear with me, I'll try and locate that drawing in a second.
it? And then, in second to that, would roll down screens be permitted? I know it's you can see through them. I'm just curious to know if that's permitted as with the application. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, with respect to the latter question, they would not be permitted if it was made a condition. And the committee has faced this type of variance before and has learned from an experience where the applicant at the time received relief and then later constructed drapes or rolled down drapes on the structure, which effectively blocked the view. So we've learned from that, and we're now starting to attach conditions that make sure, as the chair mentioned earlier, that we don't have that situation arise in the future.
Would I be able to have roll down screens, like you said, that you can see through? I mean, we haven't thought about it yet, but you're saying no, or we would put a condition in that a roll down see-through screen would be allowed.
I'll leave it to the committee to weigh in on that, but I would recommend no, because it's sort of like half blind that way.
Right. Although if you saw the east of our house, they have a huge hedgerow of evergreens right now that either way they couldn't see in or out.
I understand that, and Mr. Maritat did make note of that from his viewing today, so it's up to the committee, but
It's not necessary. I was just wondering.
Anyway, anytime we start varying a little bit, the next applicant's going to say, well, you did it for them.
Yeah, right.
Well,
Okay.
but the conditions were different. Well, it's very difficult for us to get into a back and forth like in that kind of situation. So it's up to the committee, though, if you're asking that they consider it. that's fine. We'll see what the motion is when they come up with it.
Okay, it doesn't really matter. It wasn't in any of our plans.
Did you find a drawing, Chad?
Apologies, Mr. Chair, I'm still looking for it. I thought that was part of the agenda, but Donna, could you, is there any way that you could email that sketch to me and then I could share that with the committee?
It is part of the package, is not? I'm looking at a drawing here.
Oh, I have it now. So let me just let me share the screen. Does everyone see it sort of sideways drawing, or I want to make sure I'm showing the correct attachment.
We'll have to turn our heads.
It's not oriented properly, but that's the,
Sorry.
yeah, that's
a
the
rendering and it's sideways.
rendering. Let's see what else is. That shows the budding. Yeah, so that's the, and I can't rotate it, Mr. Chair, I apologize, but that's what the structures to look like.
Yeah, it doesn't really show a deck there.
There's other drawings with the deck included. I didn't get renderings though with the deck necessarily.
Hmm.
It's kind of a one-man show who is offering to do the building, and so he drew up some sketches, but nothing fancy.
Well, there's 2 steps off of grade. Looks like. 8-foot ceiling.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, that's the sketch that was attached to the application.
You're not sharing it anymore.
No.
And there was a few other samples of what it would look like. It's basically that wood structure with the beams.
Well, on the application, Mr. Chair, that was that structure, that photo was all that was included in the agenda that was sent out.
Well, I suppose we could make a condition that it be no higher than the floor line in the house. Does that help, Tom? I got a quiet nod over there. Did that help, Tom, if we did that?
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't think that I don't think that the elevation is so much of an issue for me. I would just add about the screening into the porch, which, would be beautiful and all. It just creates an opportunity for a situation between neighbors. If that hedge were not there, if there was a different owner, different relationship, and that's the reason. I understand, maybe you haven't even thought about it, but if it were a condition, that's really the reason, is to not set up a confrontation in the future.
Sure, no problem.
But it does, the structure, I had the advantage of turning the computer screen here, so it does look very nice. And so it's a a concrete structure or wood floor? This is showing a wood floor.
Wood cedar deck with wood beams and the wood structure.
And not attached to the house?
Not attached.
Not attached, okay.
So the structure, the covered structure is 5 feet from the house.
Okay.
Oh, and I did submit an application to IRCA already as well.
Can I ask a silly question? Why would you not attach it to the house?
Oh, well, I was told not to. IRCA suggested it not be attached. And then also Donna said that it should be 5 feet from the house. So it's a freestanding structure.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just so you know, if it's not attached to the house, it has to be 5 feet from it to be considered accessory. And I believe that's what Donna was referring to when she talked to the applicant. As for IRCA's reasoning for not attaching it, I can't speak to those.
Well, they would likely want better foundation.
Yeah, I think IRCA said something about if it's attached, there's erosion that could happen.
Yeah, you'd have to go down to bedrock, and I don't think you want to do that. Daniel,
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to recommend the approval of the minor variance A3121 at 14146 Riverside Drive. It does meet the 4 tests that it is minor. It's not really a structure, as more of it's more of a outdoor type of gazebo. And of course, the applicant does have support from the neighbor, which is mostly would affect as far as a visual sight line on Riverside Drive on the lakeside. And with that approval, of course, it would have to meet all conditions set out by the town of Tecumseh.
okay, the one recommended condition in the report is about it remaining open on all sides. So are you adding that to yours?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Seconder. Paul? Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous again. Thank you very much, Sandy.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. No deferrals? No unfinished business?
None.
We had the issue of the fire access and flooding again tonight. And I have not yet made the effort to find out if we can see it on a map anywhere. Where do we leave that, Chad?
Chair, that we currently, administration is able to see certain layers that the general public can't. And we have a layer that includes the elevation, roadway elevations, where floodwaters might exceed 2 feet, in areas that the floodwaters are under 2 feet. And just to make sure that that isn't misinterpreted anyway, it's not accessible to the general public at this point, but we are working on improving it to the point where it could be.
Okay. That was the only unfinished business I knew of. Any new business? Some of us attended the conference. I forget who was there.
I was there.
And I was there. Tony, were you there? No.
No, it wasn't.
I think Tom was.
I was there,
Daniel?
Mr. Chair.
Daniel was there and Tom was there.
Yeah.
Do you have any comment on that? For those who didn't make?
I could have had a little more exciting topics to listen to. I found it to be a little dry. I know I'm new to the committee, but I think some of the stuff was even over my head on a few things.
Yeah. That's a consistent comment. Tom? Nothing. You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry.
Now you're
It's
not.
hit and miss on which topics you sign up for, and even at the conference, some of them are a little dry.
I think you have an opportunity to view them all, though, like if we've got access for 60 days, I believe, so that whatever ones you did choose to view, you still have an opportunity to either review it if you thought it was interesting, or, you know, view the other ones that you didn't have time to view in the 1-day session that was provided to you. I found a couple of them very interesting. And the other two were not quite on point with some of the details or situations that we deal with the town, but two of them were quite interesting to do with legal non-conforming. I thought that one was quite interesting to deal with. So you might want to take the opportunity and view some of the ones that maybe you didn't have an opportunity to view that day.
What was the second one, Donna? Legal non-conforming, and what was the second one, if you remember?
I don't recall, but I can go back into my notes and I can send you an email and
That'd
let
be
you know
great.
which one it
Thank you.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention legal non-conforming as well, because it goes into fair amount of detail on, it's like everything, what's considered to be minor in nature, that sort of thing. It's, you know, those kind of discussions around legal non-conforming. When is it? What is legal non-conforming? There is a kind of a rule of thumb that if you take down a legal non-conforming structure and put it back up on the same footprint, you're able to do that. But I think this discussion talked about it being even broader than that. So anyway, it was a good one, I thought. It's the one I was going to talk about. Thanks, Donna. Okay, anything else? We're good. We're at adjournment. Motion to adjourn. Paul. And nobody else wants to adjourn. Chris. Chris has his hand on his mouth, so we'll call that
Close enough.
support. Okay,
Hey,
thanks very much.
Paul
Dave,
yawned when he did his, so.
okay, Dave, can you take us off of live, please?